I was asked to give my picks for the BYU 2018 football season. I don't like what I see anymore with BYU sports, especially football. The team was 4-9 last year, and quite honestly, I don't think they have a whole lot to play for. I think they would be better off if they stayed in the Mountain West Conference, but I don't think they could get back in the Mountain West Conference now if they wanted to. And Independence is a wasteland with no water in sight. I don't think the athletic director, Tom Holmoe, is really a friend to BYU. BYU won't even consider a conference affiliation now until 2023. We all hoped they would go to the Big 12, but that is all about money, and BYU in the Big 12 is like Hawaii in the Mountain West, a lot of travel for the other teams. So I think that they are probably not considering BYU very seriously. There is no conference who wants them right now, so BYU fans need to get used to that. The NCAA has BYU where they want them, a non-entity. Okay, so enough of the fun stuff. Let's jump into the predictions. September the 1st at Arizona. This is a warm-up game for Arizona. They were 7-6 overall last year, finishing in the top 3 of the Pac-12 South. I think the Pac-12 is overrated, quite frankly, but of the 9 bowl games the teams went to, they only won 1. By the way BYU played last year, I think they're going to start out again the same way they finished, with a loss. I predict Arizona will win 24-7. September 8th, Cal Berkeley, another Pac-12 team at home. Cal was 2-7 in conference play last year, and they are not really picked to do much better this year. They have a new coach who expects a lot more from this team, and BYU and Cal are pretty evenly matched talent-wise. So I'm going to give the win to BYU because they are at home, and that's the only reason. September the 15th, BYU plays at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was 13-0 in conference play last year and has been picked to repeat this year. BYU is going to be a snack for these guys because they face the Big Ten Conference North Division right after they play BYU. I predict a loss for BYU in a not so nice way. September the 22nd, BYU takes on McNeese State from Lake Charles, Louisiana in the Southland Conference of the FCS. They are in the same division as the Big Sky Conference with teams like Weber State and Southern Utah, but McNeese State plays tough teams. Arkansas State, Alabama State, Stephen F. Austin, they were 9-2 in their conference last year, and they have a booster program like none other down there. They send their quarterbacks to the Peyton Manning quarterback camp, and football is their religion, so they always play to win. They are only playing 2 out-of-conference games this year. Northern Colorado out of Greeley, Colorado from the Big Sky Conference, and BYU. Don't take this as a gimme. It's going to be a good game, but I'm going to give the win to BYU because they're at home. September the 29th, they're at Washington. Washington won the Pac-12 championship last year and are expected to repeat again this year, but they got their heads handed to them by Alabama in the final game of their season. Washington went 10-3 last year, and I really like Washington's coach. I always have. He did a phenomenal job when he was at Boise State, and he has BYU's number. I predict BYU will lose 38-14, and maybe I'm being optimistic at that. October 5th, they have Utah State at home. Utah State is a tough Mountain West team. And yes, I am a BYU fan who likes Utah State. I am a big Utah State fan when they're playing everyone else. Utah State went 6-7 last year, but I don't think that was reflective of their talent. I think they're much better than that. However, I think BYU and Utah State are pretty evenly matched. And again, because they're playing at BYU, I am giving BYU a close win, 27-24 at home. October 13th, Hawaii was 3-9 in the Mountain West last year, and aren't picked to do much better this year. Hawaii always plays BYU hard, though, and I predict BYU will still pull off a win, 24-21 at home. October the 27th, they play Northern Illinois. This is a very tough FBS team out of the Mid-American Conference. They finished 8-5 last year and always bring a real hard game. This is not a gimme by any stretch. I think BYU could lose this if they don't take the game seriously, and NIU actually travels pretty well. But because this is an at-home game for BYU, I am giving BYU the win, 24-14. November the 3rd, BYU travels to Boise State. Boise always seems to have BYU's number. Always a tough game, and Boise went 11-3 last year in the Mountain West and will do it again this year. I think BYU will have a long bus ride home. I predict a loss to Boise State, 38-17. November the 10th, BYU travels to UMass. This is another independent team in the FBS. UMass was 4-8 last year with as many wins as BYU. Anyway, I think this will be the only away game BYU will win this year. Good, bad, or ugly, I predict 17-10. November the 17th, New Mexico State comes to Provo. They were 7-6 last year and played a very tough schedule in the Sun Belt Conference. This is another game which is not a gimme. I expect New Mexico State to play tough, but I predict BYU should pick up a very hard-fought win at home, 21-14. November the 24th, BYU goes to Utah. These Utah boys scratch and pull hair. What can I say? Whittingham always has his team ready to play, and they are returning Huntley at quarterback from last year. I wasn't that impressed with him last year, but he's returning and expected to do great things for Utah this year. Utah has BYU's number, it seems, and always brings a hard game. They seem to be able to get up for BYU regardless of how good or bad they're doing. But when game day arrives, it's a dogfight, and BYU can't seem to do anything right. Anyway, I predict a loss for BYU this year, 28-14. So my final tally is 7-5, but that could easily be a 5-7 with some bubble game losses like Cal and Utah State. So there you go. This is my opinion. I want yours. Thanks.